which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, let's do roll call. We'll start with Sue.
Mr. Condit?
You're like on an island there.
Early, I showered.
Hey, Tom Browski.
Nicole Whitby McGrath. Debbie Shannon.
Robert Carr.
Mike Kusa.
Vinny Candela.
All right, do we have any amendments to the agenda? Any amendments to the agenda? Any amendments to the agenda? Excuse me. Hearing none, we'll move forward with audience of citizens. Anybody would like to speak? Anybody like to speak? Anybody like to speak?
Am I audience or board?
Your board.
Your board.
I think my request.
Vic, what do you want to have a?
No, I was just adding some,
Okay.
Where are you going?
He needs you to do whatever he wants to.
Joe's not here, you can't steal his
No, I'm
phone.
not.
Don't steal the kid's phone.
I'm not leaving.
But there's lots of leaves.
Okay, workshop topics. We're gonna start with district assessment report and curriculum director Eric Williams.
Good? Yeah, you got that. All right, so just how I'm thinking about going through this. Obviously, the way this is set up, I put some kind of executive summary in here, kind of the overarching big ideas, takeaways from the data, as well as try to get some little blurbs as to what each of the data points mean. I'm gonna kind of go big picture a little bit and then go over how we actually use these assessments in district, what staff do with them, as well as kind of give a little bit of historical for those major pieces like ELA and math, kind of where we are program-wise, what we've been doing the past couple of years, where a lot of our time, energy, and money has been going, as well as kind of some next steps and things we're hoping to get in the future to help enhance some of the programming. So the assessments, district-wide assessment report, everything in here except the DIBELS, which I'll get into in a minute, is all public data. So this is the stuff that is used to create the district report card. It's all on EdSci Public. This is the stuff that makes the newspapers and so forth. So I'm hoping that throughout this report, I can kind of help build some context around this as well. So it's not just numbers on a piece of paper. This data is used differently by staff. The majority of this is kind of that bird's eye view data that we use as a district to create, goals, helps drive some budget proposals, as well as possible places to go with curriculum review, program enhancements, and so forth. With that said, there's no one piece of data or assessment we have that can tell like the best picture of a student, right? When they take SBAC or ESPA, I keep calling it SBAC, the C's gone. When they take ESPA, when they take SATs, right, that's one data point for a student. There's no staff member here who sees that one number, says this is what that student is because that number is here. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So I'll start with kind of the ELA literacy side of things. That DIBELS assessment is a lot of that first part. What the DIBELS assessment is it's an assessment that assesses early literacy skills. So the state a couple years back passed the Right to Read Act that governs that every district has to use a Science of Reading approved curriculum that's on the state list. A couple years back, we decided to go with HMH into reading. So we're in year 3 of the implementation of HMH into reading. Implementing this program, again, the program to where it is, has been a massive amount of work. I don't know of any program where you can kind of buy it, take it, and just start out of the box saying, here's day 1, teachers, it says here's unit 1, lesson 1, go teach it, and we'll go from there. There's been a ton of revisions. The programs these days are actually made to be too much so that districts have and teachers have flexibility. So there's a lot of work in the scope and sequence side of things and figure out what to do when and where. the HMH rep that we had, talked a lot about the choices that different districts make in regards to how they implement the program. Due to a lot of this work that had to be done, the district did budget for and got a literacy coach, a K-5 literacy coach, which we're in year 2. The amount of work that this position does, again, is massive. So a lot of the day-to-day, the curriculum writing, the resource creation, professional development with teachers, data collection, all that stuff, the K-5 literacy coach has a huge hand in. If we did not have a K-5 literacy coach, we would probably be at least a couple years behind where we're at now, in regards to where we're able to, where we have this program. What the DIBELS data shows us, it's broken down into different subtests, and this hopefully tells us how well are we doing our program. Last year, we had a large focus on phonemic awareness and that part of the subtest. We had professional development, a ton of resource creation. We would cover teachers to work with the literacy coach on developing the resources and small group instruction that would be done in the classroom. We saw great gains. Now, we've only been doing DIBELS for a couple of years. This is year 3 of full implementation, but we did see gains with 57% of kids being proficient, up to last year, 89% of our students being proficient in the phonemic awareness subtest. And that was one of our large focuses for the year. So again, a lot of time, effort, energy went into that area, and we saw great gains. We do see that we are also 10% or more higher on every subtest than national data in regards to students being at or above proficiency. I am interested to see where we are at the state level. So as I said in the beginning, every test but this is currently public data. Starting this year in the winter, the state will be collecting this data. So every district in the state has to have a screener. Our district, as well as I think the majority of the state, is using DIBELS. So this information will be collected. The state didn't say exactly what they're going to do with it yet, but my guess is it will start to show up on accountability index, state reporting, and so forth, because every district has to have this. So the data collection will start in the winter. Supposedly the publicizing the data will be at the end of the year. We just don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet. So this is an important assessment. We do have to have it. The state sends a survey every year about confirming, are you doing it? And now we did have to sign a data sharing agreement that the state can have the data. So that's kind of the DIBELS piece. What happens is the students take this, they do in the beginning of the year, and it is 3 times a year, there's a major benchmark. But this is the assessment that teachers use the most in K-5. So we use this to help with our intervention program, identifying students who need extra support in certain areas. This data is used all the time because not only certain points of the year is a given, we also do what's called progress monitoring with it. So students are doing smaller type assessments within the year every couple of weeks to help determine, are we growing in these certain areas? So it's not hey, we took the assessment, we're going to wait half a year and take it again to see how we're doing. We get updates every few weeks as to, are we making growth? And again, that helps drive small group instruction, what students may need tier 2, tier 3 intervention. So this is an extremely important assessment, and of all these in this document, the one we use the most. Does anyone, before I kind of move on, does anyone have any questions on the DIBELS piece?
I have real quick. So how do you guys determine, I know it's probably through the literacy coach, but how do you guys decide who needs that tier 1 and tier 2? How does that work? That extra help, how does that get determined?
So that's determined through our data collection. And the way DIBELS works is DIBELS actually makes it easy because they actually have cutoffs for what students need more support. We don't only use this piece of data, that's the major driver when it comes to literacy in the K-5 world. We also, how are students doing in the classroom with, the weekly assessments they do in there, working with the teacher in small group. sometimes a student may just not like taking assessments and the teacher has other data that says, hey, this kid's knocking it out of the park with all this other information I have. So when it comes to the DIBELS piece, they actually provide, because it's nationally normed, like the cut score as to, hey, we know that students in this range need more support. When it comes to other intervention, such as math, where we don't have a program like this, that's more grade level created just based off of past data that we have, where we know where, hey, students in this range, we know we're going to struggle moving forward and we need to intervene.
So the individual teacher has the data necessary to jump them to the next tier or even up to tier.
So this year, there's been we've kind of overhauled the intervention program K-5. So at Quaker, we created a dedicated block to where intervention occurs, goes as well. So there are meetings that happen regularly. And at those meetings, like the last one, for example, we met with every grade level teacher in a day to go over data and talk about which students are we concerned about. And the literacy coach, myself, and the build and admin, as well as the reading specialist, have all the data. We'll look at it beforehand and say, hey, here's what we think. Then we bring the teacher in and say, hey, this is what we have in regards to data. What do you have in regards to the classroom that we may not see with just the data? So at those meetings, that's where we'll determine who may be in need of tier 2 or tier 3 services. And then parent communication, and then that begins.
Thanks, sir. Anybody else?
Before you move on, Eric, can you just talk a little bit about who the literacy coach actually works with? Is it students or is it teachers?
So
Is it
not
both?
that, it kind of is both. It is predominantly teachers, and the position was meant for teachers. So again, the majority of her work has been in the curriculum side of things, resource creation, and providing professional development, as well as data analysis with all the different pieces of data we have in. With that said, because a lot of this is new, she will actually work with students as well, not a lot, but to run a group, say, let's see how this works, let me try it with the students. So I know when I'm working with a teacher that I know I've worked with this with the students. If we have a large amount of students in a win block that, maybe we need to make the group smaller, she may step in for a period of time just to help keep those groups small. But the far majority of her time is with the staff, which is needed.
And it seems like it's working, so you wouldn't want to change that model.
No.
So
The old model of interventionist / coach, it's difficult to do both positions well. And usually people will do either one well and the other not, or just both will kind of be okay. And it's a lot of work. The literacy coach we have now is extremely busy. Like I said, we'd be years behind where we are now if we did not have the position due to the work we need to do with the program to make it what it is.
So is one coach enough, or in an ideal world?
I mean, listen, the more the merrier. But yeah, for the literacy side of things, yes, and there's always changes. So, these companies are also want to make a profit, right? So when they get feedback in regards to changes, they make version updates, which then creates more work. So HMH into Reading just created a new version this year. So while not wholesale changes, it did lead to a lot of the work we did last year. We now need to, get back in there, and there are some changes that need to be made. I forgot to say this part, but within the HMH Reading program, we used to, in most districts when this came out, the Right to Read Act had a structured literacy program such as, let's say, Foundations, and then they added the reading program from the state list. Right? We were running into reading with Foundations as our structured literacy because we were used to it, didn't know the structured literacy side yet of HMH, and we were piloting it and working with it, and the state has come out and said, no, you have to use the HMH side of things. So again, more training for teachers on the change, more work around curriculum and resource creation. And it is, like, there has been a lot on the teacher's plate, a lot. And these programs are not easy. There's months of just, it sounds dumb, figuring out where to click. Like, these are massive, massive programs. It is not, I'm gonna go here day one, lesson one, click the button and everything's here for me. It is a lot to deal with. You know, the teachers have years of experience with other programs or doing things a certain way, and then it's learning a new way. So, you know, there has been a lot on everyone's plate the past couple of years with this, and there still is, because again, of the version updates, you know, we are revising how intervention works, which creates more, you know, of a load of, you know, getting on the same page and the PD around that. So, you know, there is a lot on teachers' plates, and the literacy, like I said, we'd be years behind if we did not have this position.
You mentioned, I'm sorry, Nicole, did you have anything?
No, Vic did.
But Vic has a question.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
is there, because this is a phenomenal program.
Mhm.
Is a way to mentor with the parents. Because this seems to be something that was taught, you know, used to do nursery rhymes and all things that kind of led you to this is there a way they can really integrate this with the parents to really get them involved at a very, very early age?
Yes, so there's a couple ideas kicking around with the parent piece. Like, we've been more focused, obviously, on just, let's get this right in the school. You know, the school, when they have kindergarten orientation, that's always like a piece of the puzzle with parents, what we're looking for. I also have a letter ready to go out to area pre-Ks that we can kind of lend a hand to help. Hey, this is what kindergarten looks like now. Here's what the skills we are looking for these kids to have coming in, which has changed over the past decade. Is there any way we can maybe support you? Because if we support those local pre-Ks, that's obviously going to help the students when they get to us in kindergarten. So I have that letter ready to go. And then the literacy coach and I have talked about, what do we do with the parent piece? On the math side, we've done some parent nights. Those are usually, you know, we don't get a large majority of the parents. So we are looking for ways, maybe we can do like videos modeling how things are taught. Honestly, when it comes to reading, the best thing is just read to your kids every night. And we try to, you know, stress that, but read with them every night. And that's kind of the best thing you could do for them at home, honestly. So.
I'm good.
Okay. So that's the double side K-5 with the literacy piece. As we move into the assessment report, the next one that kind of aligns with the LA literacy is is ESPA. So used to be SBAC. So when you hear ESPA, they took the C away. But that is done in grades 3 through 8. So we've been doing this for about 10 years now. I think 2014, 15 was the first school year that the state started to do this. Little background on the middle school, because I gave you the K-5 background on the ELA program. When I first came into this district, I think I got hired end of August, and I came in and there was a brand new literacy program, K-12. So HMH in the reading, which we just talked about, 6-8, which uses what's called EL education, and then 9-12 we'll get to in a second, the Odell High School Literacy Program. The 6-12 program, teachers didn't really have the resources over the summer for those, so a lot of them saw that for the first time as they came in ready to teach. So while we're in year 3 of implementation of those, year 1 was trying to get used to the program, writing curriculum, because like I said, with the HMH and the reading one, the 6-12 programs were the same. They're designed, you cannot teach everything that's in that program when they give it to you. You have to make curricular decisions. So we did write curriculum just to get, hey, let's see if we can make sense of this, put the units together, make sure that we have a good scope and sequence. This year, we're focused on like what revisions. Hey, we've run it for 2 years. We know that year 1, we didn't know the program extremely well. So what changes, what's working, what's not working. So a lot of the work done this year, 6, 8, 9, 12, is around really enhancing and revising to make it work. I know the curriculum, as an example, the curriculum subcommittee, we found one of the novels in the high school curriculum really was not working for the 11th grade, and we changed that up to make it align better to what we wanted to do. So that is the work going on now. This is year one of department heads teaching less classes, which has allowed them to kind of drop down to the middle school and just start those conversations around vertical integration. How are things going? Just help get more people to the table with myself to have that 6-12 lens. So that's one of the major focuses. This is also, one of the pieces with the department head. Historically, this is year two of, we actually have the content specific department heads back. Those who have been on the board remember it was kind of, one person at a mix of departments. And I think my first year I go to meet with the math department head and they're actually, like an applied tech teacher, which great, but they didn't have that specific content knowledge. So it's great that we have the content specific department heads back. It's great that we gave them release time so they can do more of the specific work to help with the programming. At the high school, we're really trying to focus on the scope and sequence and the skills and like, hey, do we have any gaps that we need to hit? We're also focusing on calibration, looking at student writing and saying, are we scoring all these the right way? Do we have the same idea when we take a rubric out? Are we giving the same similar feedback and the same expectations for students when they write or have any of these ELA skills? The department head leads a lot of that work, so I'll work with her, but the department head will lead a lot of that work. I take on a lot of the work and will be doing so at the middle school with some support from the department head. And that's kind of that focus this year is calibration and revision around that curriculum. When it comes to some of the data that we did see when it came to ELA and literacy, with the ESPA, we did have multiple grade levels, saw its highest score in the past 10 years. So it was grades 3, 4, 5, and 8. When I kind of look at the big picture, 10 years of ESPA, when it comes to the ELA literacy side of things, basically where we are now is where we were. Some of our highest years in ELA was right before COVID, like 2017, 19 years. And we're basically back to where we were. So we're not highest in 10 years, 10, 20% higher than we've ever been. It's a couple percentage points higher, but what I see is we're back to kind of where we were before kind of the COVID area where a lot of the scores dropped. Now our work is going to be around to obviously, keep the positive trend going. So we did see some positive things going on in regards to the literacy assessments when it comes to the SBAC. And then in 9-12, PSAT data, when it came to ELA literacy, was fairly flat. And SAT data has been in a decline for a couple of years. So again, the focus is really those skills. I'm like, all right, let's look at those skills on the SATs and figure out, are we hitting those enough in this new curriculum, in this new programming? It's always one of my concerns whenever you have a new program is it takes a couple of years and a lot of work to get it right and make it your own and make sure we're hitting everything like we should hit. The department head up at the high school does a phenomenal job, knows their stuff, and has a great plan for this year to kind of attack some of this. So, I have high hopes that we can turn, that piece around. I don't know if there's any questions in regards to, I know SBA has been around for a while, so you've seen these numbers and data.
Anybody got anything? Okay.
All right, so with the math, when it comes to this type of data that we're talking about, so there is no, we talked about at the younger levels, the K-5 DIBELS, which is the assessment we use for to see how students are doing with their reading skills. There's no K-5 equivalent of that on the math side. Biggest reason for that is the state passed the Right to Read Act and kind of forced us, you have to have this particular screener and here's your list to choose from, right? And there was no push to that because there is a budget implications to having that. I think that DIBELS assessment costs us, off the top of my head, I think around $10,000 to $12,000 to run that. We are looking at the math equivalent to Dibbles, though, to help with our math programming. So what Dibbles does well is it kind of continuously gives us that specific picture of the child, and we know exactly where to go when it comes to intervention and supporting the students. It gives the teachers very specific information about where we go with small group instruction, right? So we don't have that on the math side for K-5. So we are looking at, we're in talks with some companies. The company we use for the literacy side does have a math one. So we are in talks of what would that look like, and if we can add that to the budget. So we do have, obviously, the ESPA math for grades 3 through 8. So similar to the literacy side, we have the math side. We do have some, math. We've talked about this last year as a whole across the country. The state math scores are not as high as literacy scores. We did hit, in regards to GOES, a whole school, we did hit the highest score in regards to proficiency in the ESPA era, which is the past 10 years, with 68% of the students being proficient. Some of the good news I saw at OMS, we did, after a couple of years, the whole COVID mess, 21 to 23, we did have a pretty large dip at the middle school of math scores. But last year, we rose up about 10, 15%. We were flat this year, but I was happy to see we didn't go back down. The work that needs to be done in math is similar to a lot of the ELA side, and it's the vertical integration piece. We tend to see declines from second grade to third grade, fifth grade to sixth grade, so those transition years. One thing besides that Dibbles piece, having the math equivalent to help us target our support a little better, is also, I'm hopeful that we can look at the budget process and add a K-5 math coach to mimic the work we're doing with the literacy side of things. Someone whose job it is every day, the resource creation, the professional development, the scope and sequence, and the alignment. Again, that's work we can, and in the past we've done. It takes a lot longer when it is, hey, as teachers, we're going to find time on the once a month PD day, or we're going to try to get you coverage, and then teachers are out and it can't happen. When you have that coach role, you have someone who's able to, that's kind of their daily focus, and it just works a lot better. And the reason let's just see if we can fit it in with teacher process is a lot more difficult is because of what's happened on the literacy side of things. The fact that, we have this new program and we're still getting that to where we want it. There's not a lot of bandwidth left to, let's mimic that on the math side, but without a coach. So I'm hopeful we can get a K-5 math coach to kind of mimic what we're doing on the literacy side of things. And at the middle school, I'm also looking to see if through the budget process, we can get some math tutors. So currently at the middle school, we have, the only support person we have is we have a math interventionist. And that services those students that are in intervention that we have to service by law. So that person, any student who is on that tier 2 or tier 3 intervention, that person will do small groups. But we know we have a lot of students at the middle school from kind of our numbers here. We have a large amount of students that are not at proficiency. What tutors would allow us to do is support a lot of those students who don't happen to be in intervention, but we know still need support. So if you remember the past 2 years, we had the high dosage tutoring grant, which we were able to get tutors into the middle school. It was a small scale, but we did see some positive effects from that. A little bit with the scores, but also with just student attitudes when we surveyed them in regards to how it helped. The issue with the high dosage tutoring grant that I had is we had to use a company to do that. So you're at the mercy of who they can give you as a tutor. Year one, we actually I had to call and say, we need one of these tutors out of here. It was just not working out. And there's also limitations as they're like, they need to be these days, it has to look like this. They're very prescribed towards their, with whatever business they're with. I would like if we had ownership over the tutors and what that support program would look like. But due to where the math numbers are, and we know that students need support there, we have all the support at the K-5 level in regards to interventionists and other people to help provide that support. We really don't have that at the middle school. So I'm looking to see what we can do in regards to adding tutors at the middle school as well. Yes.
How many children do you think would benefit from that at the middle school? I'm trying to think of how many, is one tutor enough to handle 20 kids, or is it a larger population?
So the research around effective tutoring typically sits in that 1 tutor to 4 student range at 3 times a week for about 30 minutes. We get what we had with the high dosage tutoring. One year we had 3, last year we had 2. So with the 2 of running groups all day, you are able to hit a bunch of students that support throughout the day. Again, I would prefer we had control over it because I see it as more of, the student, just because you're in tutoring doesn't mean you're going to be tutoring all year long, right? It's use the data. What does the data tell you? And we know after Unit 1 assessment, we can go meet with all those grade level teachers who struggled here, right? And what students do we feel they need more of that support? And then we're able to use the data and the tutoring, support those students. Some may cycle out, right? Some may stay in, but allow new ones in. So I guess it depends on,
Right, so is it 20, is it 30, is it 50?
when we had the tutoring throughout the day, we were able to do it every period. You're probably looking at like 40 to 50 students being seen throughout the day. If we're able to get, let's say, 2 tutors. And again, how many students in a year would really depend on how many are cycling out versus staying in. Yep.
Looking at the graphs, because I know we've really been always talking about vertical integration. Obviously, from 5th grade, where you had that extra support, I believe that's where you had it. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade just plummets.
Yep.
So just reading your graph, that shows like there's a complete disconnect from what we're teaching. Now, it can be very simple as that. 5th grade, you're still learning fractions and multiplications and maybe the theory behind that. And then the 6th grade is, because always in the past, we talk, we're doing trig and calculus and kindergarten and all that kind of stuff. And is there too much of a robust program going from 5th grade to 6th grade? And these scores don't really represent a true 6th and 7th grade. Because I've been reading a lot about that. They're saying, we got these high standards from someplace, China, because they have grade math. And we have this big disconnect, and we're not teaching enough depth in the earlier grades to really keep that, because you lost all the momentum from 5th to 8th.
I think there's a lot, and that's why to try to answer it just looking at this one data point is difficult. There's a lot of context that also goes into it. If we had a K-5 math coach, one of the main focuses would be those transition years, right? And I think vertical integration has a lot to do with some of the numbers. And I'm not saying that one focus alone is going to make these go up 20% or 30%, but I think just, for example, meeting with the middle school teachers when, I was talking to them about, hey, we were able to free up the department heads, a period, and they're going to be coming down and meeting with you and just talking about where are things at, how are things going. There's not a lot of time in the school year, especially, most of our PD days are half days, they're filled up by other things. There's not a lot of discussion happening 6-12. So we're a small school district, and the limited amount of information going from 8th or the middle school to the high school, it even from goes to the high school, that information is extremely limited. Like those middle school teachers are like, yes, we'd love to talk to the department head and come down here and have these discussions. So, part of it is just, we were kind of in silos which was one of the reasons for freeing up the department head. Because that vertical integration piece is important, we need to do a lot more of that. I was just talking to the interventionist / coach over here at GOES, and we're gonna try to get the 5th grade teachers up to 6th grade, sit in some classes, 6th grade down to 5th grade, sit in some classes, so we can get a better idea of, that transition and have better discussions around that.
I mean, yeah, that's excellent.
We had a math coach.
/ interventionist. Yeah, so it's the same thing as like what the model that I talked about previously. I'm not a huge fan of the interventionist / coach because I don't think you can do both
Right.
jobs very well. Just, especially what they'll be asked to do, it's one or the other.
We kind of phase that out.
So the position at the K2 school was phased out. I think the K5 position has worked well. Seeing kind of the span of from that kindergarten to 5th grade and being able to go into the classrooms and knowing, that span of grade levels and the alignment. Having the one just at Quaker, one just at GOES, I think that, again, living in silos where this position helps with that vertical alignment piece. So I kind of see it as, that K5 coach, K5 also helps that 5th, 6th transition. And then we have that, now that we're able to free up the department head, now we have the department head 6, 12, right? They can even do some work together, but we have multiple people now that can span those grade levels instead of everyone living in a silo.
So the position you would like to create would be K through 5,
Math coach,
math coach,
similar to,
and would not be interventionist, and trying to integrate your department heads down in, coming from wherever they're coming from and helping do the
Middle school.
integration up through the high school.
Just on that vein, we currently have a 3 through 5th grade math coach
/ interventionist.
interventionist. Is this something that would reform that position where it would transform into this? Or is this, you're looking at something additional?
It would be an additional, that interventionist / coach would most likely be full-time interventionist.
Anybody else?
And the only other, the math data we talked, the SBA piece and the tutors at the middle school, but, we did see some positive PSAT trends in regards to math and hope that carries over, but SAT data, that is definitely an area of focus that we need to get up. The end of last year, just to try to get some information around the attitudes of students taking the SATs. I know there's been some, we did go to, for the first time ever, transition to the digital SAT. Over the past couple of years, during those COVID years, the schools, like, a lot of colleges were not going to do SATs. Or it's not necessary, and a lot of them are bringing them back. Not all of them have them, but a lot of them are bringing them back. So the guidance counselor and I surveyed those students. So we surveyed last year 142 juniors, just to get their attitudes around the SATs. Do you care about taking this test? Because obviously that provides some context to them sitting there. So of the 140 students that did the survey, 88% said they were attending the college or university. 70% said it was very or somewhat important to get a good score. So we know that the majority of them did care. But 60% of the students did not spend time prepping outside of school. So the counselor and I had a discussion, which is interesting because there are 100 times more resources at the students' fingertips for free now than any of us had when we had to take the SAT. It was go to Borders and buy an SAT prep book or something like that and do that. So we are looking at ideas. I know curriculum subcommittee, we talked about this last time. The guidance counselor is reaching out, looking at ideas for both, SAT prep during the school day possibilities, as well as like outside of the school day. How many students may be interested in something like that? What would it cost and look like? And then we'd survey students, would you even go to something outside of the school day? If we did offer that. We do have a problem-solving math course, which is which does help students. A lot of that is prep for the SAT. We don't have a ton of students in that class, so that is something the counselor, the guidance counselor I work with, we talked about during the course selection process. Talking to students about the SAT, how important it is for them, do they know if their college, university needs it? What score do you need? And if it is important to you, maybe it is a good idea to go into that problem-solving course. The state also switched things up, right? So we have a Connecticut SAT school day where, again, you used to choose a date. Most students took it 2-3 times. A lot of students, this is the first time they take the SAT. It's for free. They get to see, hey, how did I do? Do I need to take it again? So the counselor and I are also looking at kind of tracking some information on, because we do get information when the students take it again, is kind of looking at those other administrations and comparing it to the score and seeing, of the students who take it 2-3 times, do we see that increase? So there's definitely a number of things we're looking at. The department head, there's a lot of focus on assessment analysis and working with the department on, again, that scope and sequence piece of, hey, we see that this is an issue on the SATs. How are we attacking this in the courses?
Nicole, do you want to make that point? Because that was an excellent point.
I just said, if you're asking the student, they're not gonna wanna do the course. If you ask the parent,
Yes.
the parent may make that same student do that course, so you get a different answer.
We did talk about that in curriculum as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
We used to have Saturday academies
Yeah.
years ago.
Yes. I was just going to mention the same thing.
Yeah, where the kids would come in and they'd have a program on Saturdays.
Mhm.
And then it kind of fell away because there weren't too many kids that were interested in it,
Or you could even,
so.
like, we had a SAT club that it was students and honestly, there were no, like, there was an advisor,
Mhm.
but the advisor just kind of sat back and watched and the kids would do their own SAT prep.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something we could.
Yeah. And I meet often with the head guidance counselor and with, Miss O'Brien, and it's just, all we do is like, look at this stuff and like, what are some plans? What can we do? That sort of thing. So, we are looking at all the options.
This is kind of a rhetorical question, is that as a private citizen and an individual, I'm still on a commercial development committee.
Mhm.
And what can we do with you to get businesses to come into the school? Because I see the science and everything else like that. Science and math, if you have a science teacher teach math, the kids will learn math. Because they make it interesting, it's related, just like the little G meter and stuff that you put into the school.
Yeah.
That makes it alive. But just to think about it, now that I'm outside, lonely,
Mhm.
out there, what can I do to try to get business to come in here and work with the
Well,
students?
so the guidance counselor, they do have like career speaker series where we do get outside businesses, local businesses. Like I remember I attended, I think Ward, Heating and Cooling, I think he's right down the street here. Like he came in to just, talk with students. I get the list. The counselor did have a list of all the different businesses that were brought in to speak to the
But I
students.
wanna go beyond that, because talking, just like Ben
Mhm.
Franklin said, you can talk to me all day.
Yeah.
You can talk to me, I can design a bike.
Yeah.
But only if I ride the bike,
Yeah.
4 years later, can I ride the bike?
Well,
So you need people, which I feel strongly about,
mhm.
to come in and bring in things that are, like when we went to the machine
Yeah.
shop. I mean, that was eye-opening to you three guys to see those kind of machines making all kinds of parts.
And I think the biggest help is gonna be, so this year, I know Mrs. O'Brien has talked about the new model for Capstone. Right, so that is gonna be a big push for community help. When students need to get out into the community at the end of the school year and do some hours in a business, in an area they're interested in, we are gonna need help at that time. So that work is in regards to meeting with students and talking about topics and ideas so we can figure out what we're gonna need. That is happening in the near future. I think that's gonna be a big piece. Like you said, having the students actually go, not see it in a book or be told about it, but now go try. So we can get, and we actually just, students, the engineering students, construction students just went on a field trip, and I can't remember where, but they ran into the factory owner. The teacher was telling me, because he was saying like, hey, make sure we do that capstone, like they'll take some kids. So I think that capstone model,
Put my name in the minutes there, to contact me.
all right,
And
They come to your house?
That I'm as much of a pain in the butt to that other committee as I
Yeah.
am here.
we're hopeful that new capstone model will push students out and get into these situations in these businesses. So we will definitely be needing support with that.
So I have two things, and we'll go to Deb. First, if, at the very end of our last meeting, Steve is committed to providing us with a bunch of,
I do remember that, yep.
okay, so, we're gonna have a big list of businesses that we can reach out to help us. The second thing I will say is we have actually created a subcommittee, to reach out to businesses in the community. As of right now, Mike is the head of it. I think we'll get up and running once our new members take over, and we'll be in a much better position at that point with Steve's contribution and with the new subcommittee that's gonna be out there. So, yeah, it's definitely, I agree with Vic. It's something that, you never really I'm a visual learner.
Mhm.
I learn because I do. And I think that would be very advantageous for kids to have. And that, Jim,
I was just gonna bring up the Steve.
I just want to throw this out to you, that when we went to the company,
Mhm.
okay, after the company, I gave a class because all of them wanted to come out and talk to me about the truck. You
Mhm.
know, even the secretary said, is that you?
Yeah.
And everybody was there. Without that kind of relationship of working in a shop and knowing machinery and doing those kind of things and having that rapport, you're gonna miss a big section of what you're trying to do with the kids. And I think we just had an article of Bridgeport, a young lad took up one of our welding classes that we have offered in the state, and is now making twice as much money as he was before doing welding and loving it. That's the kind of emotional attachment that you need to have with this program. So I'm throwing my name in again,
Mhm.
that they can help you.
First off, I just want to thank you. This is an excellent
yeah,
analysis. It was very well put together, and I appreciate the data, because sometimes over the years, we've asked for stuff like this, and sometimes we don't get any, or then we get a 100-page document that we have to try to decipher. So this was very clear, and thank you. So I have two questions. One, there's a decline in AP
I was gonna
participation.
talk about that next quick.
Oh,
Yep, there's one more part, I'm sorry.
I thought that we were at the end.
No, I'm sorry.
what was your second one?
I'll go quick. So the last piece, the accountability index, that's the one, I think that just was publicized by the state within the past couple weeks. So basically what happens, there's a set of 12 indicators, and the state uses that to develop an overall accountability score. So some good was we do have our second highest score of the past 10 years. Each school also has like its own measure. The only issue is, not every school has the exact same measure that goes into their own score. So Quaker, for example, doesn't take the SBA test or SATs or anything. So it's primarily off of attendance. I think they're gonna start collecting this DIBELS data from us, and my guess is that is gonna go into that score. Then you get to the middle school, and obviously you have the SBAT data. The high school has the most data to go off of. And in here, you'll see, they look at things such as, are kids taking art classes? College and career readiness courses. They look at absence data. So all of that goes into the accountability score. Some things from there are college career readiness indicator, some things that are happening in that area. That's the percentage of kids who either pass, get at or above proficiency on SATs, AP tests, or dual enrollment. So we are in talks where we put a lot of time and effort in trying to increase the amount of dual enrollment classes we have outside the AP realm as well. So we're in talks to try to make like a personal finance class that can actually if you take this course, you get college credit. We're in talks with some schools about, can we hook up in our physics courses possibly. We currently have it with ECE courses with UConn, with Spanish. So there's an example of dual enrollment. We have accounting courses that kids can take where they can get credit at post. So the state has a big push and initiative. We're trying to increase that. Some colleges are easier to work with than others.
I literally do that, call me.
Okay. And it does become difficult in some areas. With that said, the other thing the state is gonna start pushing and collecting data on is they're gonna call them IRC, so industry recognized credentials. So things such as an OSHA certification, CPR certification and so forth. So I've been on a couple calls. They are trying to push, what can we get students certified in high school? Where can you add these to your courses? Being a smaller school, it's just thinking, where can we fit this in, right? Any course we add means something goes away if we don't have a staff member, right? So you talked about, well, I would love to build a new wing and have a welding, program at the school. Obviously, we want to go down that road. You're bringing in a mobile welding unit or you're adding a new wing to do that. So it's where can we add those and be smart about it, can afford to add those. And if we spread ourselves too thin, what do we lose if we just keep adding courses? So that's some of the conversation we're having right now in regards to the industry recognized credentials. With AP, enrollment has been dropping, so I think that has somewhat to do with it. We're also trying to add more of a variety of AP courses. So last year was we added AP seminar, which 10th graders can take. So we're like, let's find some AP courses that you don't have to wait till junior, senior year. If we have these students who want to take these college level courses and are motivated, what can we add that they can take earlier in the high school process? So we did AP seminar that added, I think we had 14 students take that, and the average student passed was I think 3.39, 3.4 on that one. So we're looking at options for that as well. I did talk to the counselor about, just like we did the survey for students after the SATs on attitudes, said we probably need to look at the AP to get an idea of why not as many students are taking AP to get a better picture.
So my question would be like, if it's trending in that direction and dual enrollment is becoming more of a thing, is there a reason we wouldn't, without saying it aggressively, turn our back towards the AP stuff and double down on the dual enrollment where you are getting potentially a greater variety, where it's not as, there's a single test, you either pass it or you don't.
I tell students all the time, if they're picking between the two, you don't need to pass a test to get the credit. You just take the class, you pass the class, you get the credit.
And I think it depends. We're still learning too, right? Not every college will take, sometimes you get, when it comes to AP, you may get a different credit than, hey, it's dual enrollment, but you're getting an elective credit. And depending on the college, does it transfer? So the difficult piece we got to be careful of is we also don't want to have like dual enrollments with like 8, 9 different colleges out there. It's like, wait, what does this one do? It's also a lot of legwork for our counselors in regards to the registration piece. Are there fees, following up with parents? Who's going to take over all that? So we're trying to be smart about who we're partnering with and what it looks like, so we don't overload the people, because all this stuff, we don't have a staff member to kind of oversee all this additional dual enrollment stuff, because again, it is conversations with the schools. There's deadlines to hit with registration, paperwork, contact. We want to make sure we're not overloading these people who have their other position as well, and make sure we handle in a way we're not, disorganized and not doing right by the students. And it's also not as easy as any teacher can go teach a dual enrollment, right? So some schools you need to have a master's in your area, and sometimes we don't have that in a particular department. So we can't pick any class to be dual enrollment. Sometimes you have to fit the parameters of what the school's looking for.
For the dual enrollment, we have to provide a teacher and the college provides an online?
Typically what's happening now around the state is there's a big push for the colleges accepting our courses as, we'll give you college credit for this. So our teachers teach it. the students have to go sign up, like with the college, like normally some have a fee, some don't. And then we have to report scores back. And then if they pass our course, and some schools are like, you have to run our test, here it is. Some are, yours works, we took a look at it. So it's all different per school and per
Yeah.
course.
Like on our side, we would ask for a resume to CV from the instructor and like the curricular document scope and sequence. We'll have the individual department that runs that course for us, review it. If they say it's good, and we award university credit for it. But there is a lot of nuance to Eric's point, and especially from the student perspective and getting people registered and all that, it is a big lift. It could be a big lift, but some schools handle it all differently. So
Yeah,
it really
it's
does
very
vary.
different per school.
And I think we have to get the parents buy-in on this too, because like, is Project Lead the Way, is that eligible for this?
You can get college credit for Project Lead the Way, yes.
Okay, because that was a question that
I
came up.
think 4 out of the 5, all but one class we do Project Lead the Way, they can actually get college credit.
But
I
it
think-
seems,
$200 or something.
right, so that's what I'm getting at. So it was, you had to sign up by December, you had to pay $200, and it sounds like the credit only goes to University of New Haven. Well,
That's how a lot of these are
all right,
set
but
up.
if my kid doesn't go to University of New Haven, I don't pay the $200 because it doesn't matter, he's never gonna go
So
there.
you can transfer the credits.
Okay, so
And that's
the piece that a
what we're
parent
working
might
with the
not
dual enrollment
understand.
too, is being clear, okay, if we work with this university, what's your policy on this credit and transferring? If we're working with this university, what's your policy?
And that's another layer,
Yeah.
because transfer is at the discretion of the institution receiving the credit. Now, a lot of these courses are pretty basic,
Yeah.
entry-level courses. Most schools aren't gonna blink an eye at that, they're gonna see it comes from a college, because you'll get a college transfer for this too, from that institution. You see Psych 101, you're gonna take that everywhere. But when you get into more specific and nuanced courses, there could be a little bit of a decision on where is it gonna factor into your degree, depending upon where you go. But it's very rare, most schools are really pushing, accreditors push that you don't lose credit. It's just a matter of where it's gonna fit and what it's gonna
See,
count
this is
for.
information you don't get from a 9th grader.
Yeah.
You only get it from the administration.
I can imagine.
You're not gonna know.
Yeah, but there's a lot of work being done, you know, there's a big push from the state. You know, the IRC piece is fairly new, and just trying to figure out how to, like, with the current people we have, with the current classes we have, where can we get started to make it fit now versus where do we expand to in the future?
I have one question. So it's declining.
Are you talking
The
AP? Yeah, enrollment, the amount of tests taken, the average score has gone up, the amount of tests taken.
So I see a lot of trend towards kids not going to college. Could that be a factor in the trend downwards?
It could be a factor. That's one of the reasons we did the SAT surveys, to try to figure out, we're still mid-80s, high 80s
Yeah.
of kids saying, or of students saying they're going to college or university. So the majority are still stating that. But yes, we do have 10-15% who are not, which is why the counselors have like the career speaker series. We get the, you know, the town emergency services Fridays last year to get them in to talk to the students about careers in that field. But yes, we have conversations all the time about how to do more with that as well. And again, we're hoping the new model of Capstone helps too, with getting students out and actually get into the field. Because you also can't say, hey, you want to be an electrician, leave school every day at 10 a.m. and go with this electrician, see you later. You know, so that's difficult as well.
We talked about it with the culinary course coming up, that we might be able to do some.
One of the certifications, yes.
Anybody else have anything?
Well, the only thing is, I don't wanna lose the projects we made on pathways.
Mhm.
okay? Because everything here is all about going to college.
Mhm.
Okay, I just listened to the COO or whatever he was of Ford, and they made a lot of mistakes. And, but his number one thing is that we need people, and he didn't use the word logistics, but I've been saying, logistics is the name of the game, okay? And it's like, where am I gonna get my rare earth? Where am I gonna get my magnets? You know, how am I gonna get to my customers? How am I gonna do this? You know, that kind of critical thinking, okay, is something that we don't teach, okay? And also is that we need people on the line, okay? And they're plumbers and welders and stuff, but they're professionals, you know? Because when you say plumbers, everybody has one picture of the guy under the sink, with his butt hanging out, So the thing is, we need to elevate what the professions are and keep that pathway. That pathway, as Danbury was doing, it still qualifies you to go to college. We never discount going to college and being prepared. But we can't forget about the things that industry is asking. I mean, we're not getting that from local industry. I talk to them. I don't have time to talk to them, nobody cares. So we need to have that focus on pathways and careers, and you're gonna see more and more things that are coming up that you need to come in and be able to think, how do I get the materials to make something? But you also have to have the chemistry and the other things. So how do you make rubber? Where does it come from? I mean, we got kids that think potatoes grow on trees, We don't teach very much depth. We go very thin across it. So all I'm saying is that don't forget pathways and try to get some depth into the teaching.
Yeah, and pathways are focused. You'll see the next board meeting, we're at the high school. This month?
Middle school.
When we're at the high school,
That's December.
there'll be conversations on pathways and how we've been trying to build some of them up and what that looks like now.
I'll be over there.
So we also have to keep in mind that, I don't want kids going away from Oxford High School or Oxford School District, but we do have CTE schools. My daughter goes down it, and she just got OSHA certified. So we may not offer it within the school district, but we give our kids opportunities outside of our school district to accomplish those types of things. Although I will say, I don't totally disagree with Vic, like, we need to have some pathways here, within, the financial responsibility that we as a board have.
And that's the difficult piece in a
Right,
smaller
exactly.
school.
Exactly.
Yeah, 'cause
How many can you actually build out
Right.
with Fidelity before you run out of space, staff, or
I'm gonna be
funds?
very interested just to hear, when we go to the high school, what the plan is.
And one last thing, as you miss that target and kids go to other schools, schools and stuff, we're losing the base. We used to have 1,900 kids, we got 1,350 now, okay? On one of the things I was on here, we couldn't get the money because we were losing students at 5% a year, and we didn't have enough to get the grant for the funds. As people say, it's more beneficial to go to a trade school, and it comes out of our pool of students, you're gonna lose more and more money. So it's also a money equation that you have to look at. Somewhere along mentally, you have to think and say, you know what, we've gotta cater to this because it still generates money coming in. It's like, different states lose all the millionaires and they go someplace else. Well, all of a sudden you don't have millionaire paying taxes. You gotta balance, you gotta have that vision. So I think that's what's happening here because I go to, over to Middlebury and I see the kids that left here and they're just having a great time, learning. And they're not learning welding and all that kind of stuff. They're actually learning other things, So it's just food for thought.
Yeah.
Because it's an economic decision.
If you go, I think you'll see, listen, there's a lot of people doing a lot of hard work in the district. And that's a conversation we are having all the time of what those courses look like. And I know, Deb, you and I have had a lot of conversations around the publicizing that because there's a lot of amazing things going on in the district that we are having students do that, I think we do have to do a better job of publicizing what that looks like because kids are doing amazing things. We do have a large variety of topics that they're being taught. We're looking at revamping some programs that talk a lot about what you're doing, what you were saying, Vic. But like I said, it's making those smart decisions and, what are we going to put a focus in? So it's not, let's go in a million different directions, but we only hit each one a tiny bit and see what that looks like.
So I think one of the things that we've talked about is, do you have like our art show? We have all these amazing kids that can create but we don't really sell ourselves. So we have to really do a better job of selling ourselves. So maybe we don't lose as many kids to other programs, but.
When we were talking about that engineering presentation that those students do. That's
Yeah.
amazing
The
at the high
people,
school.
the person, yep.
So,
Probably the way.
Yeah.
That was, I was so glad I went to see that.
Yeah.
It was so worthwhile.
And then the middle school personal
The-
projects are amazing, we hear about those, so if we can let people know that these are the things that we're actually accomplishing in our district, I think it's a good selling point for us.
Yeah. I also don't think we should forget that we approved a communications plan that last meeting that this school
should support all
should support all of that, exactly. Yeah. Anything else, sir?
I have one last high-level question, so high-level answer. You mentioned how these are big statewide national assessments that don't necessarily reflect day-to-day weekly assessments, more of the formative kind of stuff happening in the classroom. I'm just curious, for future reports, I'd be interested in that too, and just like a high-level response. How do you relate those kinds of assessments and what's going on day-to-day? Because that impacts students' grades.
Yeah.
I've been working with so many students over the years who do great on assignments, fail tests, but that gives them bad grades. Do any of these assessments even impact a letter grade or a progression of a student?
Not a letter
Right.
grade.
That's why I was just
So-
thinking, like, those other assessments are also, interesting, because I'm sure they show, like you
The
even
other,
said.
I mean, obviously those, the assessments being done in the classroom on a weekly basis with the teachers, those are the ones that they use the most, right? Those are the ones that they're having the conversations with the students on. They get immediate feedback.
Right.
I mean, we do the ESPA assessment in the spring, the student gets a report back in the fall. So what motivation is there for a middle schooler to sit there and say, yeah, I wanna do my best in this note? So we understand there's context with all of these. Obviously, if a student needs a good SAT score to get into college, that student would take that a little more seriously than maybe ESPA scores, which really, like you said, have no bearing on it. So this is, I think, important for the board to understand. The reason I went into a lot of detail on where we are program-wise, because it helps provide context, but you're right, this is one piece of the puzzle, right? And there is no perfect assessment that we can give a student on one day and say, here's the perfect picture of you, here's who you are, here's all your strengths and weaknesses.
All our resources.
Yeah. So it is a constant analysis of data, and it just happens all the time. And there's a lot of hard work going in by teachers on a daily basis, and that's what they do. That's the in the classroom one is what informs their instruction, and we'll make big district level decisions, budget decisions using that information as well as all of this. But again, this is the data that's publicized, goes in the paper on EdSite, so I think it's important for the board to understand what this is, what the context is, and what things in the district are going on that kind of go into this.
And definitely to echo, this was awesome. This was so great to read and clear and understandable, so thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you, because we hashed this through a couple of times, and we met and we talked, and I know at board meeting, people wanted to have specific questions, and I just wanted to thank you for taking the time and listening to everything that we were trying to throw at you, and breaking it down so everybody can understand it, because we can take this report and, anybody can sit there and understand it, and it was a huge task, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
One
This
quick
is
thing,
the-
I just want to follow up real quick with Mike. Mike and I met about the businesses, we talked about the businesses.
Okay.
We compiled multiple lists. Deb provided a list, we had a list for the Booster Club, PTO, the town. I sent that to Steve to add to, all right, 'cause I'm trying to keep it centralized back to myself, so we sent it to
Nothing
him
merged.
after the last meeting, and I said, Steve, just add to this, don't create another document, so we'll have one working document. So I just want to make sure that we all know that, we put a lot of information together, because people were holding on to it, so it was very helpful.
Before you go, Eric, thank you. This was the most comprehensive presentation that I've seen in the 2 years that I've been on board. This was fantastic. I want to thank Deb and the curriculum committee as well. Fantastic job to everybody that was involved with this. Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
And our next curriculum meeting is December 8th.
Shameless plug.
Okay, workshop topics B, draft Board of Education handbook. So I think this is something that you worked on, correct?
This was a handbook that we did several years ago in our board retreat. Stephanie and I worked on it, and this is, I think as far as, we adopted it, but it never really was used thereafter. It just kind of gives us the policies that are applicable, and so it's just something that, as I'm scrolling away and going through papers and cleaning up, I found, so I figured I would share.
Yeah, I took a look at it this afternoon. It looked fantastic. I like the fact you put policies in there and to understand what our role is and what we do as a board. So that's my input. I think we want to try and create a ad hoc committee.
Yeah, I think we'd like to try to finalize and wrap it up and kind of publish it, so
Yeah.
maybe a few board members that would be willing to give some time. That, you know, Garen and I and Beth can work and put it together, but I think we should wrap it up and publish it, so, because it'd be helpful.
Okay. Do you want to lead that?
I'll be happy.
So obviously, we're gonna vote for board officers in the next meeting. I think we should probably talk about the committee then, but I think Deb should lead it. She had her hand in it initially. And then we'll go with some volunteers, or Deb can talk to some people who you'd like to be involved with that, and then we can go from there.
Count me in.
Anybody have any comments, questions? Okay.
So we'll ask again on the 25th, is that
We
what you're
will,
saying?
The 2026-2027 school calendar. Yeah, we can put that on the agenda and whatever comes with the officers. Yep. Can assign committee membership to that. All right. So, Ralph and I talked about this, the school calendar, 2026-2027 school calendar, a little bit amongst ourselves, just the two of us. The biggest thing that we need to point out here is because of when Labor Day starts, Labor Day is, it looks like we're gonna start on the 7th of September. Is that correct, Ralph?
So it's the 31st.
31st.
7th is Labor Day.
31st, sorry. Yes.
So we have convocation
With,
on the 26th, 2 days of professional learning.
right.
Are you gonna do the 26th, 27th, and 28th as all professional learning?
Correct, yes.
Same as what we did to start this year.
So if no one noticed, that puts us for December break at
2 full weeks.
2 full weeks.
Because the way we approached this was we're trying to have the calendar kind of be somewhat consistent from year to year, that we start towards the, end of August and finish, that second week of June. So we really didn't think it was the idea of, starting after Labor Day or ending school around June 2nd. So, we thought if we can kind of keep it similar to what we've done in the past. If we go with the 2-week break in December, then we can kind of, August and June will look like what we've done in the past. So try to be consistent for our parents, more predictable,
I don't know how parents are gonna feel about having 2 weeks.
I said the same thing. It's either,
Well, that or end early or start late.
Yeah, and this is
No,
just
I
like,
know, it's hard, but
this is how the calendars work. You can do it all out. You're gonna start the Monday before Labor Day, and then every so often, this is just how it falls, to have everything fall in alignment. It just,
I think 2 weeks at Christmas would be awesome. I'd love that.
well, we have time, vacation time, but
Yeah.
people don't have vacation
So
time.
this has come up in the past, and for working parents to have 2 weeks at the end of the year to have that time reserved, that's a real challenge. There is also a concern about learning loss for kids being out of school for 2 consecutive weeks, and we left it up to the administrators last year on what to do. I preferred the 2 weeks because I like to travel, but they actually said that they didn't want that because they were concerned about the learning loss. So I don't know if you had an opportunity to talk to the administrators this time about it.
We certainly did.
Yeah, we did, we talked about it, you know, I think that, in my experience in other districts too, that's come up, especially for the primary grades. I think when we really critically look at what that would look like, we would, if we didn't have that 2 weeks, we'd be in Monday and Tuesday. And what are we doing on those 2 days at the primary levels?
Yeah.
So while we would ensure the consistency of the school time routine, for sure, in terms of academic learning loss, I think we would largely be seeing the same thing regardless of those 2 days, just from the academic perspective. We do ensure the routines and expectations, which for some of our little ones is just as important, of course. One thing that we also took into consideration is, you know, similar to the challenges that our working parents have for those 2 weeks, there's very few camps and opportunities at the end of August and at the very beginning of June. And that becomes a real problem for our parents. That last week of August is really, really hard. There's nothing available, you guys. So, and the first week of June, similarly, there's nothing. Most of the camps don't even begin until after that second weekend.
So I actually just had a thought. When we were closed for the flood, we had Sanka kind of take up the slack. Is that something we should be thinking about during those 2 weeks at the end of? Yeah, I'm just kind of spitballing here. It literally just came into my mind. Maybe that's something we could look at as well in terms of, you know, parents that can't take time off type of thing.
So my son was a Sanka kid for many years, and during the summer, exactly like Aaron's saying, that they
just don't have that time.
they just don't have it. And I think part of it is because they have college kids
Yeah.
who are the counselors, and those kids are now back to school, so they just don't have the staffing
Well, I
for
was thinking more of coverage during the 2 week break,
during Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah, I don't even,
College kids are home. I
right,
mean,
that's true, but then the school has to be open, and typically the schools aren't open.
okay.
So like you need a facility to do it.
Yeah.
Because there is a cost benefit of shutting the plant down for 2 weeks. I mean, we drop everything back, temperature wise, everything, so,
Yeah.
you know, there's,
Okay.
now we wanna fire it back up again, I mean,
Also get some germs out of the building.
yeah, so, you know, there's.
At the right time of year.
Right, I mean, I understand the learning loss part of it, but there is a cost benefit, but like we just shared it with the administrators, is like, you know, we bring them back late, parents are still having their kids at that last week of August, you know, so, and sports already start before that anyway, so.
So what are the building
People are down.
administrators? They like this?
We had the very same conversations that we're having right now. It's, you know, what about this? What about this? And for every up, there's a,
Right.
for every this, there's a that. And so, you know, I think they landed that. It's a very wonky calendar year with Labor Day falling on the 7th. Fortunately, it only happens once every 7 years.
This is probably good, or actually, this won't affect. I was thinking of the IT project for rolling out the networking stuff, but this is for the fall.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Alex.
So this is something that we'll bring back for a vote. Is it gonna be
Next
next
week,
week?
2 weeks, 2 weeks,
In
2 weeks, yeah.
So
We'd like to
this is-
push it out and get people, so that people can make plans.
That's what we figured, if we could sort of get this done
Yeah.
on the early side, it does help.
Year ahead of now, year ahead.
So as members, we just kind of need to take the next 2 weeks and make a decision. Stay away from stopping, or from.
Article
32 out of 6.
That's it.
Alrighty. The 2026-2027 operating budget. Noah. Okay.
Yeah. You have one?
Yeah. Because I have one already.
No, I got one for each one.
Okay. Everybody have a copy? All right, perfect.
So just want to take a little bit of time tonight. Ralph asked me to just give you an update so you know that the guy that's not not even been here for 2 months, is actually, working on the budget and getting things in line. Obviously worked a lot with John to try to get some things lined up. So the first piece is, the first page after the cover, is the calendar we're working off of. So as you can see, we've already kicked off. We did our first training with the clerical staff and administrators last Friday. We're gonna do another one this Friday. And you'll see in the next slide why that is. We changed how we're doing the process. You'll see our major dates. So December 1 is whenever we requested all the administrators, both school and department, to get their information back. And then our intent is to provide on December 16th, the superintendent's budget. One thing that's not on our schedule here, and it's something that we'll discuss next week at the finance committee meeting, is the expectation as far as, since our finance meetings are the third Wednesday of every month, we kind of fall in between, we present it and then the next day is when our finance meeting is supposed to be. So we'll discuss that next week at our meeting to see what expectations are for that. And then, as you'll see, kind of when we get into the spring, a lot of that is dependent upon working with the town.
So, no, really
Yes.
quickly, that's something that if it's advantageous to change with the turnover with old members, new members coming in, we can maybe try and schedule something that's a little more time, smart.
So that, this is what we're working off of. Obviously, if, with the board and with the committee, we can make adjustments as needed. Any other questions on the calendar?
For the January 6th meeting, is that when we have the, let's say, department heads or the operating units come in to present?
Yes.
And then we also invite the Board of Finance to that meeting?
That's when the department heads and the administrators come in. I believe that is when the Board of Finance is invited as
We
well.
typically, at least in the past few years, we have.
I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
In the last finance meeting, it's gonna be the same thing.
And we're mirroring everything that you guys did last year with Howard, just trying to be more in line with getting everything in on time. The big date being the January 14th, getting the Board of Ed budget to the first selectman.
Everybody good? Any questions? Okay.
So the next slide, just a little bit of a eye into our process this year. One of the big things we did was we split out the capital ask from the schools and department heads from the operating side, in part because it's kind of a simpler piece. There's not as much, and it allowed us to, we actually already collected all that information. I'm going to be meeting sometime soon with Ralph and Mike to go through, review what's been submitted, and make a prioritization to discuss with the board and to, before it becomes part of the whole package. So we already got all that information in for the capital side. It's all done. As I mentioned, we're doing training. We're doing a couple trainings this year with the administrators because we're doing everything in ERP, so in our accounting software this year, trying to get rid of as much as possible, having a bunch of spreadsheets that have to tie everything in together. This is one of John's big recommendations, and as you may recall, he worked in Danbury, much larger district. So that even though we're smaller scale, this should help really with our efficiencies. I actually just spent all day today with Tyler working through the process of doing the build, specifically to the personnel side, because we'll be able to kind of roll all the positions in from what we have this year into next year. I know, we are zero-based budgeting, but we have the contractual obligations, so it kind of makes it a little, we can make ad hoc adjustments as needed with some of those different pieces. It's also going to be make it a lot easier for us to do position control. As been discussed, our Ralph's office, we're working through the HR piece, trying to streamline that. This part will help us with identifying our process of when a position's open, when a position's filled, and tying together, making sure we have synergy for a position, that we're not over accounting or under accounting throughout the year as people come and go, that those positions remain in there and that the funding is accounted for. Yeah, and then, you know, our goals there at the end, obviously submit on time, keep it accurate, you know, identify areas that we can be more efficient and, you know, continue building on excellence, you know, with our new administration and our new board.
No, really quickly, with the capital budgeting stuff, how much is the 10-year capital plan gonna affect our ability to kind of say, hey, this is what we kind of need, like, this year in terms of capital projects?
Well, I know,
Let me jump in a
Yeah.
second. Mike and I met with Fryer Architect last week or this week? Last week. And Mike, we got him on a tight schedule, which is great. So if everything goes according to plan, okay, according to plan,
Gotcha.
they'll be presenting it to us at the January 13th workshop meeting.
Oh, great.
Okay, now the RFP specs had to be done by January 31st, but they were already in this week, one of our schools. So we were very impressed with their timeline. It's aggressive, but it's thorough. So we just want to make, don't rush it, 'cause we want to miss things. But the way they outlined it, and we met with them last week and they started on Monday, which is really nice. So we'll have a working draft to go over it on the 13th of January at a workshop meeting. That would help inform the process. So we still got some time if we need to tweak. But right now, like Noah said, we have our internal list.
Yep.
But then we'll get the expert list.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Thank you.
and with the, you know, capital budget and operating budget being some, you know, separate processes with the town, that should let us have a better inclination of what we go to for an ask.
Perfect. Thanks.
And while we go through the process, because it feels like it's a full year event, I'm guessing with the communication audit, what we learned from that, this plugs into the communication that we communicate out to the parents, the community, as we share the information, the budget drivers, whatever information, educate and make sure that people support the budget, ask questions, and, you know, come out and vote. So I'm guessing that communication audit somehow will. I don't know when
That'll be conducted. I mean, that will, in the budgetary process, the part-time person will be part of that conversation. We are meeting next week to finalize the timeline of the audit and the plan. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Awesome. Okay, great.
Any other questions on the process? I will say it's, I have another half day tomorrow with Tyler to go through, the non-payroll stuff. You know, John set all this up, before he, stepped away. And, I mean, it's intense, but, just today alone, there's a lot of things that it's not just, it's gonna help us a lot with our budgeting, but even just our processes, like our financial processes and bookkeeping. This lady had a lot of great insight, so I think we're gonna have to get a lot more than just budget training out of this. And then, the next slide, some of the major budget drivers, you know, personnel, obviously, biggest driver of, our, you know, being a school district. We have one bargaining unit that's really left to negotiate. There's a few grades that we're keeping an eye on, such as potentially one that's moving from Quaker to GOES, how that's gonna work, with costs and personnel and stuff like that. Facilities, you know, as we've discussed in the past, you know, deferred maintenance is one thing that Mike's really been working hard to get caught up on, that you're all aware of a lot of the issues that have gone on with the high school, and even, you know, some of the things with the middle school. So, you know, another big driver. And then, you know, insurance increases, we haven't gotten any idea of a number yet. Currently, I'm estimating about 8 to 10%. That's, you know, somewhat to the highish side of, what I have heard from a few different places. But as we go through the cycle, I'll be pushing our insurance company to try to give me a better idea of a range, so that we make sure we have a good number in there, without hopefully any surprises. And then, you know, they were talking today, you know, the federal government, a lot of things going on. Hopefully they've voted themselves back into session, or, you know, back into operating. But, you know, a lot of ongoing questions about grants and general funding, from the federal government, what DOE, the US DOE may look like this time next year. You know, we're going to talk about, you know, possible contingencies of how we may handle things, but luckily at this point right now, even with the shutdown and everything else, title funding, IDA continues to be available for us to, and, you know, getting to the state.
I have one question. What is the main driver of insurance costs coming up? It always goes up 10%.
Yeah, you know, it depends who you ask, you know, some people say it's the CEO salary, some people say, you know, more technology means more costs in, you know, hospitals and medical
More
care.
technology used to be less cost, but the thing is that is there things that under our control, we can't control what they do with their admission. I just met with my insurance people, because obviously they're doing the same thing they do to the school, and one of the things is, my representative says, I don't recommend this because I don't get a commission on it. Okay, you know, plus they made changes on it. So the thing is that every year we go through this, and 5, 6 towns always come in with a real high insurance balloon. And the first thing they cut when the town goes, oh, it's the first thing that they raise, oh, we can cut $500,000, and depending on the town, they can cut $1 million. So it's, to me, that kind of performance is outrageous. So I think, you know, someone's got to ask them exactly, are we having a lot of accidents? Are we having, what is the driver that we can control? Because we don't ever do it. It always goes up 10% every year.
Right, yeah, and obviously, like I said, I'm gonna be pushing the insurance company to get an idea that obviously claims for our district is, you know, the biggest driver of it. You know, it being my first year, can't really go too crazy with digging through everything, because we gotta make sure that we, you know, have, you know, to try to present something as a potential other option. But yeah, well, you know, making sure we get plenty of information from our insurance providers. So, you know, if we end up with a 5%, like, still want an answer, but that would be great. You know, if you know, John said, you know, sometimes he got some crazy numbers from the insurance companies in his time, you know, and then it ended up being half of that number, because they're just always trying to give you the higher number until they see where things lay from your own information. And, you know, as as the bargaining units have consolidated under a single plan, hopefully that continues to help. Obviously, you know, not everybody's under it yet, but hopefully that will continue to help keep that cost increase to a minimum.
Yeah, because I think you really gotta, you know, because like selling cars, if you came in, you're buying a car from me, I'm gonna give you the highest one, you know, and then let you work me down. I know there's a lower payment, you know, and if you can't convince me or work it and I got the sale, I sock it to you, you know. So, and insurances are just like selling cars. You know, this is an intangible that you can't put on. But I think it's time that the town started to ask, where are the tangible, what would be a driver? I have never seen major accidents or things in the school that, except for one principal that broke a neck or an arm going down on a tube or something, you know. Where is the cost coming from? And so I'm throwing that out as something that we should be kind of cognizant of. I might have that.
One of the big things that we've done in the last year is get bargaining units on our, you know, to change over from the previous insurance plan to the new plan, and hopefully, you know, we can continue to do that. And that's ongoing right now.
And obviously, like property insurance and liability insurance, some of that has to do with inflation, so the cost of stuff.
Yeah. Any other questions for Don? Thanks, man. Great job.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Nicole, I'm gonna let you take over for Ian and Brett. First read.
Yep, we've got 2 first reads for you guys to take a look at. They both have to do with security policies. The first is with the school camera surveillance policy. Basically alerting everyone that we do have school surveillance cameras. They could be used in a disciplinary action if necessary. We also made a note of the fact that it wouldn't be in a place where you would expect privacy. So it's not gonna be in a bathroom or a locker room, but they are going to be present on campus. The second policy has to do with armed security officers. We have them, but we never had a policy for them. So this defines who they are, what their criteria is and the fact that the superintendent gets to set the regs regarding how it works and how it is in compliance with our policy. So go ahead and take a look at that. If anybody has any questions, reach out, and hopefully we'll be able to have a second read and approve both of these policies at the next meeting.
Just really quickly, Nicole, from what I read this afternoon, in terms of the first read for our ASOs, seems like they're very similar to our policy for our SROs. Like they have to be post-certified and maintain that certification and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah, and we did all this in concert with Brian Viger, so he was instrumental in outlining what we needed.
Thank you, Nicole.
Mhm.
All right, snow removal RFP results.
Thank you. So we floated out the RFP for the snow removal for the upcoming season. It was advertised in the Waterbury Republican as well as on our website. And just as informational for you, we did receive 3 bids. The 3 companies that bid were Bird Construction at $115,000 for the season. Nature's Edge was $100,000 for the season, and Prestige Landscaping was the low bidder at $84,600. Okay. We're going through the vetting process of those 3, and I should have a recommendation to Dr. Marino before the next board meeting.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Any questions before you step away?
Yeah, and with the drain that went into our oil tank.
Sorry.
We had a drain that put water into our oil tank.
Oh,
Is that?
I'm sorry. I had to switch gears. So at the high school, there is a roof drain, scuttle drain that, the position of it's right on top of the sidewalk adjacent to where our tank is on the ground. So the tank is at the low spot, so that water then pools on top of that area. We were able to take that water out. We were able to clean it out of the fuel oil, but we need to come up with a better plan as to where that water exits.
It doesn't sound like there's a simple solution.
There's not a simple-
Sidewalk.
There's not a simple solution. There's not a simple solution. It's a involved solution, but we're working on it.
Okay.
It's a flaw in the design of the high school when it was built.
Well, it's
correct?
really just the placement of everything, to be quite honest with you. There are some things that we're considering what we can do, what's best to do.
So looking at the capital plan and stuff like that, that's part of our program, that we're looking at upcoming things that will occur like that. There's so many other things. I mean, I know the pool went because when I first started here, they put so many chemicals in there. At that time, they didn't put any of the valves for the last 2 years. We did that because we did the right people. So it's good to hear that you've got a plan to look at future capital expenses.
Yeah, so Fryer Architecture came out today. We focused on the middle school, and they'll be here tomorrow, and we're focusing on the high school. So that is definitely one of the things that will be discussed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. All right. Second audience of citizens. Does anybody have any comments? Hearing none, we're gonna move on.
Just ask Jim if there's anything to report. Do you have anything to report?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we're good.
You're good? All right, and do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.